Good evening, I'm Jose Cardenas. Supporters of immigration reform marched in Phoenix and in other cities across the country, asking Congress to take action on immigration reform. And in Sounds of Cultura, SOC, find out about an exhibition that features original illustrations from award-winning children's book artists. All this coming up next on Horizonte.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station.
Thank you for joining us. On Tuesday, thousands gathered in the nation's capital to ask Congress to pass immigration reform. Tuesday's event was a culmination of other events around the country that started with marches and rallies here in Phoenix and other cities last Saturday, October 5th, what immigration proponents called the National Day for Dignity and Respect. Here with me to talk about the marches is Daniel Gonzalez, who covers immigration for the Arizona Republic. Also here to talk about the politics involved in this issue is Rudy Espino, an associate professor at the ASU School of Politics and Global Studies. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on Horizonte. There's a lot else going on in our country this week, and if we have some time, we'll talk about the government shutdown. But in many ways, the marches and the other things that you're covering, Daniel, are intended to remind people that there's this other big issue out there. First of all, give us your impression of the marches.
Well, the march in Phoenix actually had a pretty good turnout. I think even the organizers themselves were concerned about how many people would actually show up. As you recall, back in 2006, we had as many as 200,000 people show up to march through the streets of downtown Phoenix. And a lot of those kind of tactics have kind of gone to the wayside. There's been much more emphasis now on voter registration and getting people to, beef up the Latino vote. And then we've lost a lot of people in our state. 200,000 undocumented people have moved out. And there just hasn't been the same kind of energy for those types of marches. But about 4,000 to 5,000 people showed up for that marches, so I think the organizers were very happy to see that.
They had expected, I understand, around 3,000 or so.
They were hoping 2,000 to 3,000 people were going to show up. And to make sure they had that many people, they had even, we're saying you're going to be responsible for this 500 people, you're going to be responsible for 200 people, each organization, just to make sure they had a good showing. And then when they ended up seeing 5,000 people showed up, I think they were pretty happy. It was a very energetic crowd, a very boisterous crowd, very peaceful crowd. They marched from Immaculate Heart Church down to the federal courthouse. They had planned to do a mock citizenship rally there, but they had ran into some glitches. But overall, I think it accomplished what it was intended to do, which was to grab the attention of Congress and say, hey, immigration reform is still out there. Don't forget about it. There's a Senate bill that passed in June. It's been languishing in the House, and they're really saying, hey, we want to see some movement on this, and I think they accomplished that.
Any sense for how it went in the other cities across the country where these marches were taking place?
There were turnouts in something like over 90 cities. They weren't all marches, but they were rallies, demonstrations, different kinds of events, and I think they were all very successful in getting people to come out and make their presence known.
So, Rudy, the intent, as Daniel said, was to remind Congress, hey, this issue is still out there. Did it work?
It's hard to say because those marches are still fresh in the news, if you will. And the thing that's dominating the news cycle, of course, is the government shutdown. And that's the pressing thing that members of Congress are talking about. Now, you do have these marches. You do have members of Congress getting arrested to draw attention to the push for comprehensive immigration reform. But as Daniel was mentioning, it's the tactics are quite different from what we saw in 2006. As opposed to mass protests, you're seeing a lot more, strategy involved. It's like, how are we going to do what we can with the resources that we have, given the fact that the news cycle right now is being dominated by the fact that the government is shut down.
But is it a smart move? I mean, given as you said, that the news cycle is so focused on the government shutdown, did it make sense, as the organizers thought it would be, to say, hey, we're still here?
It's hard to say. In some ways, you can say that this is going to give more fire to the Tea Party caucus that is really pressing Speaker Boehner to hold his line, force Obama to make some compromises, more compromises that he's less willing to make. And the Tea Party caucus, a lot of them are not fans of the push for comprehensive immigration reform that a lot of the activists that we're seeing protesting right now are pushing for. So, I don't know if it's the best strategy, actually.
Daniel, what about backlash, at least at the local level? Before this last Saturday's marches, you had people like Rusty Childers saying, great, go ahead and march. You're just inflaming the people who are opposed, as Rudy talked about, to immigration reform. This actually helps my side, his side, and hurts yours.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was taken into consideration. They thought, are we going to risk stirring up the pot here? Back in 2006, when there was the big marches, on one level they were very successful. They put a face on immigrants. You had families. You had people wearing white. It reminded people that these are people who are doing a lot of jobs in the United States that otherwise wouldn't get done, or they're undesirable jobs. So it was successful in that way, but there was also a backlash that was created where all of a sudden a lot of Americans thought, oh my gosh, I never realized there were so many people in the country illegally. So there was that negative effect. And then there was also some people who resented the fact, seeing people who they felt had broken immigration laws out in the streets demanding immigration, demanding things from America. But I think right now we haven't seen that kind of backlash. So I think they took into that consideration that there just hasn't been the same kind of energy on the opposition side. And also a big difference now is that since 2006 to now, there's been years of mobilization, years of registering people to vote. And I think people are feeling, you know what, we have a clout now at the ballot box that we didn't have in 2006, and it's worth risking any kind of backlash that it might have created.
Rudy, you mentioned the arrest in Washington, D.C. Congressman Grijalva of Arizona was one of the persons who was arrested. Quite apart from whether anybody paid attention because of these other issues, does it make sense to do that?
I think it shows that you have members of Congress right now, given what Congress has to deal with right now, dealing with the government shutdown, that there are members of Congress willing to go to jail, right? And I think that's just going to support and give more energy to a lot of the protests and the activists that we see pushing for comprehensive immigration reform, which is something that this country has been struggling with since 1986. The last time that we had comprehensive immigration reform was 1986, and here we are decades later and struggling with a broken system. And this is an opportunity for members of both parties to come together on something, right? Because members of both parties recognize that our system is broken, but what are they going to do about it? And right now they're being distracted by these other things going on with the government shutdown.
Now, when you say come together on something, there are plans underway, at least those are the rumors, in the Republican side to come up with separate pieces of legislation addressing discrete areas. For example, one that would deal with the Dreamers.
Yeah, and this is where Democrats and Republicans differ on how we pass anything, whether it be comprehensive immigration reform or the government shutdown. Democrats are pushing for a comprehensive approach. Republicans are pushing for a piecemeal approach. And this is something that they cannot get passed, and we really see this fight taking place in the House, not in the Senate. And as I teach a class on Congress, and I tell my students in Congress, typically the Senate is really, really slow. The House is really, really quick. The House is waiting on the Senate. But here we see the opposite, right? The House is being ineffective. It's being slowed down by party polarization. The Senate is waiting on the House. And here you have the members of the House just acting so slow on getting anything done, moving slower than I would say, I tell my students, a land sloth moving for that last slice of pizza. Here they are, just, the members of the Senate just frustrated with their House counterparts, waiting and waiting. We want to push for a comprehensive approach. House Republicans are just wanting to do the piecemeal approach, and there's no in between right now.
Daniel, on the subject of civil disobedience, in addition to what we've already seen, we've had a situation in Texas where you had about 30 people who basically crossed in from Mexico illegally, and most of them are still in custody. And then, as I understand it, there's something planned for this Saturday. Tell us about that.
Well, this Saturday there's going to be some folks coming in from around the country to do some planning and to do a major civil disobedience on Monday at the ICE offices on Central Avenue in Phoenix. And They haven't given the specifics yet, but I imagine it's going to be similar to what happened about a month ago, where some folks chained themselves to the gates of ICE, and then later on attempted to block a bus loaded with immigrants headed to detention facilities and then to be deported. They attempted to block that bus, and I think we're going to see a larger scale version of that. And that is symptomatic of some of the larger kind of tactics that are moving towards civil disobedience. And it's not all groups. You got to remember that the immigration movement is made up of many, many different groups. And there are some groups out there that are feeling that they're very frustrated by the lack of movement of immigration reform in Congress. They feel like this is really their last, really best chance of seeing immigration reform pass. They're afraid that this chance is going to slip away. So they're resorting to more high-profile civil disobedience, and I think we're going to see some more of that. And the question is that going to be kind of the dominant part of the movement, or just kind of still be just relegated to some smaller groups taking these types of actions?
Well, lots more to see and lots more questions as we go on. Thank you both for joining us on Horizonte to talk about it.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be back again to have further discussions.
Thank you.
You know, last year, of course, there were a lot of immigration marches around the country. Si se puede. What do you think your father would think about what is happening today in terms of immigration reform, that sort of thing?
I think the first thing he would do is he would remind people of the tremendous sacrifice that hundreds of thousands of people make on a daily basis. Sacrifice that includes working in difficult conditions under severe heat and many times working for minimum wage pay. And he would remind people that it's through their effort and sweat that Americans enjoy the greatest abundance of food that the world has ever seen.
This was the first year Carl Hayden participated in the ROV competition. The high school has been competing successfully in robotics competitions for the last 3 years at a national and regional level. So Carl Hayden High School is proud to be the #1 ROV school in the nation, high school, junior college, or university.
How did you come to do Zoot Suit?
I was invited by the Mark Taper Forum. Gordon Davidson, artistic director, invited me to write a play about the history of Los Angeles. And I was aware of the Sleepy Lagoon case, and I was aware of the Zoot Suit riots, having read books such as North from Mexico by Carrie McWilliams.
How did you find Alice?
Through Carrie McWilliams. I went to New York City and interviewed Carrie McWilliams in his apartment, across the street from Columbia University, where he was teaching. He'd been the editor of The Nation for 20 years. And I said, okay, he presented me with the facts, the arguments, the outline of the historical case. It was great. But I said, I'm a playwright. I want to tell a story. I need a heartline. I need someone who can touch the hearts of the guys.
In tonight's Sounds of Cultura SOC, the Heard Museum will present an exhibition featuring original illustrations from 12 award-winning children's book artists. The exhibition is called Latino Folk Tales Cuentos Populares, art by Latino artists. Here with me to talk about the exhibit is Dr. Ann Marshall, Director of Curation and Education at the Heard Museum. Also here is Kathy Cano Murillo, artist and one of the exhibit participants. Thank you both for joining us on Horizonte. Dr. Marshall, let's begin by talking about how this exhibition came to be.
Well, you know, every year we do a Spanish market in November, and it's just 2 days, and we were really looking for an exhibit to have something that would extend the wonderful artists that are out there. And so when this came to our attention, Cuentos Populares, it's a family activity. It has wonderful stories, and the art is just, it's so engaging. You look at the art and you want to know the story.
And this is an exhibition that was put together and has toured several cities already.
Mm-hmm. Oh, gee, New Jersey, it's been in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico.
And when are we going to see it?
Well, it's opening Saturday.
And for how long is it available?
Until January 5th. So we have it through the first of the year.
And the special magic of this exhibition, as I understand it, is you'll have these what, 12 pieces of art that will be on display?
There are about 60 paintings.
60 paintings from these books.
Yes.
It's both the paintings from the books, and then you'll have people like Kathy.
Yes.
On some of these sessions, they're reading the books themselves.
They're reading the books, and we have reading areas in the gallery too. So we'll have the books there. When there's not a formal program going on, people can just sit down and read the story behind the art on the wall.
Kathy, you're a fairly well-known artist here in Arizona. What's your sense of this exhibition, and why are you involved?
Oh gosh, well, there's so many different layers involved of why I'm inspired by it. First of all, my husband and I have been artists at Spanish Market for many years, and we love the way that it really elevates Latino culture and art. And I love with this exhibit combining children's books and the illustrations on an artistic level and showing the actual original paintings from the books. I mean, that's going to be amazing for children to see. And for someone like myself who, you know, has always dreamed of being an artist and a painter, to think of little girls or boys who can go see this exhibit, see these paintings, and maybe start their career early and say, you know what, I love this book, and here is the actual painting from the book. I want to try painting too, or I want to author a children's book or share a story as well.
So let's talk about the book you're going to be reading. We don't have one of the pictures from this book, but this is the one that you're going to be reading, The First Tortilla.
Right. On November 16th, I'll be reading The First Tortilla by Rudolfo Anaya, and the artwork, the artist is Amy Cordova, and I'm a fangirl of her art. I love her paintings. They're so multi-layered and very vibrant, colorful, empowering, positive, and not just for children's books, but also for women and for people of all cultures and backgrounds.
And what will you be doing? You'll be reading the book, of course, but how will you expand on that experience?
Well, for one thing, I'm a blogger, and I definitely will be blogging about the experience beforehand to let people know to come out to see the exhibit, just giving my personal excitement about it to share that. And then once I'm there, I want to meet the people who are going to be there listening to my reading and expose them to these other artists who their work will also be there. There's so many benefits from it that I'm looking forward to, and just being inspired by the art and the writing, all of it combined. I think it's such a treat for families of all generations and cultures to come see and get inspired.
Dr. Marshall, we've got some pictures from 4 of the books that we're going to put up on the screen, but the first one is from Golden Tales.
Yes.
And we have a picture from that one. Tell us first, though, about the book, and then we'll put the picture on the screen.
Well, that's an example now of an artist who is also the author. And she created stories around some of the Native American legends. And so in this case, we have a wonderful story.
And we got the picture on the screen there. This
of
story
the first
based
Inca.
The Inca civilization.
Manco Capac and the Rod of Gold. And he's going to find the place where that rod of gold can be thrust into the ground, and that place turned out to be the founding of Cusco.
And then we have, next up, Fiesta Femenina.
Yes,
It's another book that will be read and discussed, and we've got some wonderful pictures from that we're going to put up on the screen. There's the first one.
Yes, the artist here is Maya Gonzalez, and that particular figure is Malintzin, and it tells the story of how she came to be so much a part of this mountain after so much tragedy in her life.
And the story we're talking about, Malintzin, is the Indian name for the woman who came to be known as La Malinche, who has a kind of a mixed history, or at least perspective in Mexican history. Many view her as kind of the Benedict Arnold of Mexico, because she served as Cortez's trader, but she's portrayed differently in this book. When I say Cortez's trader, his translator.
In this book, she is so saddened by the horror that Cortez inflicts upon her people that she weeps and weeps until a river forms, and she flows away on this river, and then the wind captures her and takes her to a mountain where she joins with some pretty powerful gods, and together they watch over the people, and every now and then they send some destruction and some corrections to help her people. So she becomes a part of that mountain.
Before we go to the next book, Kathy, how important is it for little girls in particular to hear stories like this about very important historical figures, female historical figures?
Well, I think it's important because one thing with these books, first of all, it's very difficult to have a children's book published. Being an author, I've heard all of the stories. The fact that these books are published and out there, widespread and readily available, is very important and to be embraced. Also, the fact that they're not just cutesy stories, bedtime stories to go to bed and forget about. These are stories that are rooted in tradition, folklore, all of these things that these little girls will grow up to share with their kids, their grandkids, and carry on that tradition. And not only the story and the traditions, but combined with the artwork. I mean, they're beautiful. This is not minimalist art that, you know, with the kids where it's very simple. It's like so rich and just beautiful to be inspired on many different levels. So I think a lot of little girls and boys, it's important for them to hear these stories as they're growing up and incorporate them into daily life and to take with them as they grow older.
Now, the show, just from its title, has a particular focus on Latino culture.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that?
I think it's very important because we're here to set an example, set a positive example. Especially with everything going on right now in this day and age, the one way that we can conquer any negativity is to be a positive example and show that through daily life, daily things that we do, through education, through reading books to our children, and having them be aware and be proud of their culture and of these stories, and also of mainstream American culture as much as Latino culture combined. That's who we are. So it's important to take our families to exhibits like this and really spend time to check out these books, read them, buy them, bring them home, share them, write reviews on Amazon about them, help these authors showcase the artwork, visit the website of the artist. All of those little steps are just great ways to grow on this exhibit and have it go even further.
And Dr. Marshall, speaking of buying books, will some of these be available for purchase?
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about the next one that we have here. It's called A Gift of Gracias.
Yes, and the artist there is Beatriz Vidal, originally from Argentina.
And we've got one of the pieces that's going to be in the exhibition up on the screen now.
Yes, and Maria is dreaming of the market. Her family has had to struggle with getting their crops to grow, and they are given some oranges, and as happens in stories sometimes, these are kind of magical oranges, and the seeds, when they plant them, this is a crop that can grow and support them.
And speaking of dreams, the last book that we're going to talk about tonight is called A Perfect Season for Dreaming.
Yes, yes, and the artist there is Isao Andrade Valencia, and the grandfather keeps having dreams about wonderful things that float out of this magic piñata. And
we got a picture. This is one of the illustrations.
Yes,
it's the grandfather talking to his grandchild.
Yes, because he can't think of who he can tell these dreams to, because people might laugh at him. You know, he's afraid his best friend is going to say, you ate too much chorizo and gorditas, and you just are, that's the cause of the dreams. And he decides that he can tell his granddaughter. And his granddaughter says, oh, I'm so glad you told me, because I have wonderful dreams too.
And then we've got another picture, this one illustrating what comes out of the piñata.
Yeah, and
we'll
it's a little bit of a counting story. And for one of the things that you could see there was...
these are hummingbirds coming out of the piñata.
After he's told his granddaughter, his dreams just get better and better. And at one point, 900 hummingbirds fly out of the piñata.
That's a great story.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I love the underdog aspect. Like in the story I'm reading, the little girl Jade, she has to go to this mountain and follow, you know, the advice of this hummingbird who leads her there. And she's afraid, and she's this little girl, but she's so strong-willed.
Yes.
And she ends up, you know, saving it. Everything. She brings back the corn to make the first tortilla for her family. I just love that aspect of empowerment and being fearless. And it's okay to have fear, but she conquers it. And
Well,
I think as a grown-up, we can learn from that.
All great stories and wonderful art, and I'm sure you're going to have great crowds. Thanks so much for joining us tonight to talk about this wonderful exhibition.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And that is our show for tonight. From all of us here at Horizonte, I'm Jose Cardenas. Have a good evening.
Funding for Horizonte is made possible by contributions by the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station.